Nan Chan by Tang Jiu Qing, Volume 1. Chapter 5. The waiter was like a cat on hot bricks after setting foot in the Yamen building again. Master Qian? He scratched his head. I don't really know him that well. Sure, he comes to the tea house a lot, but so does everyone on this street. I'm just a waiter who can't even read. What would I have to talk about with a tutor? Who's on good terms with him, you ask? Nobody, I reckon. He's kind and all, but he also keeps to himself. No surprise, though. All bookworms are like that. How's he with kids? He's wonderful. He'd buy food for them every so often. All the kids round here like him, and they run in and out of his house. About a year ago, a carriage passing through went wheels in the air and crushed the foot of Chen's girl. He was the one who carried her all the way to the doctor's. Afterwards, old man Chen became even more grateful to him, and would tell everyone he met what a good man Master Qian was. Why ain't Master Qian married? Beats me. But everyone knows that he likes the kids, especially Cao Yu. He cares more about her than the Chens. How were they with Cao Yu? I really couldn't tell you, sir. I only know she's born weak. I mean, she falls sick year-round. She has this sickly complexion, and she's so small and skinny. Chen Ren? I don't know about him, but his wife Jo was good to the girl. She was always going on about Cao Yu when she was out and about. Everyone round here knows that. She even made clothes for her when it got cold. Money? I never borrow money. Master Qian ain't have much money either. We're men of two different worlds, you see. He'd be the last person I'd ask if I were desperate. The waiter shifted his body. Ah Hong? Don't be deceived by his tender age. He's a brat, and he knows how to throw a tantrum and get his way. When the constable finally gestured for him to leave, the waiter stepped over the threshold, but suddenly turned back. Ah Hong's always following Master Qian around. Kids are intuitive, so maybe he's noticed more than us grown-ups. I remember Ah Hong saying that. That piqued Gu Shen's attention. That Master Qian was a bit special to Cao Yu. He's closer to her than is normal, you know. He cracked an uneasy smile. I mean, I heard that people of Shitu had a penchant for that kind of stuff. Master Qian? That man has nothing to do with my boy. The old widow tapped her walking stick anxiously. Nothing, I say. Constable Gu. Children are stupid. You can't believe the nonsense he spoke. What? Statement? Can you speak up? I can't hear ya. Oh my, someone must have taught him those filthy words. Ah Hong's always been sensible. He'd never say such things. Ah Hong rarely leaves the house. He's never even been to Master Qian's house. Ah Hong did indeed play with that girlie next door. We live so close together, and we ain't got nothing against the Chens. Of course the children play together. I don't know what kind of person the tutor is. We ain't received any of his kindness whatsoever, I tell ya. The old widow hid Ah Hong behind her and turned increasingly aggressive towards Gu Shen, nearly hitting the constable with her stick. Craning her neck, she glowered. Which one of yez askin' for a beatin'? Slanderin' us, widow and orphan, like this? How many times do I gotta say that Master Qian ain't got nothin' to do with us? Why must you ask Ah Hong? He doesn't know a thing. Constable Gu, this case has been draggin' for so many days. Now that the deadline's comin' up, you have decided to pick on us weak, vulnerable folk, haven't you? How despicable. I ain't leavin'. I'm stayin' here and lyin' on the steps of the Yamen so the officials on top can see for themselves how you people handle the case. The old widow's spit flew all over and spattered on Gu Shen's face. The more she scolded, the more passionate she became. She began cursing everyone in Gu Shen's family and their dog, adamant about continuing unless the constable begged her. Feeling his head spin, Gu Shen waved his hand to get someone to see the old widow out. He squatted down before Ah Hong. I'll ask you a few questions. Don't be nervous. You just need to answer them. Ah Hong glanced around for his grandmother. If you answer me, I'll not only let you go, but also give you a sweet. You surely know what this place is. I can tell you there are deities above watchin', so you can't lie. Sitting atop the beam overhead, Jinglin felt his eyelid twitch at the ironic mention. Tang Ji somersaulted out of his sleeve and climbed onto his shoulder with Stony. "Does Master Qian often take Chen Xiaoyu out to play?" Gu Shen asked. Ah Hong clutched the hem of his clothes as he glanced around and nodded. "Does he often take Cao Yu home?" This time, Ah Hong nodded hard. "He takes her home and gives her new clothes and food." "Only to Cao Yu?" Ah Hong inhaled, looking exasperated as he clenched his shirt and yelled, "Only to her. He even reads poems to her." Ah Hong wrung his shirt until it was wrinkled. "He sits her on his lap, too." "On his lap, I see." The subordinate probed gently. "Has he done more private things?" "He kissed her on the face." Ah Hong became more excited the more he spoke. "He took off her clothes. I saw him touching her." Everyone around gasped in unison except Gu Shen, who stared fixedly into Ah Hong's eyes. The reaction encouraged Ah Hong. He eventually loosened his grip on his shirt and continued animatedly. "He also hides her clothes. Lots of them." "Her family didn't notice?" the subordinate asked, stunned. "Uncle Ren." Ah Hong choked on his own spit for a moment before continuing impatiently. "Uncle Ren hates Master Qian, so he told him go away, but he didn't. Uncle Ren said, 'You're a bad person,' and they had a big fight right in the courtyard, and he pushed Master Qian into the water vat." The subordinate took a quick glance at Gu Shen and asked, "When did this happen?" Last time Master Qian bought pastries for the little bitch." "This brat's not making no sense." Tang Ji sprawled beside Jinglin's ear. Should his words even stand? If the details match, then it stands. Slightly tickled by the breathing, Jinglin shrugged a shoulder ever so slightly. "That's tough," Tang Ji said. "It's hard to tell the truth from lies from anyone's words." Below them, Ah Hong was still reliving his memories. When he recalled the flowing blood, Gu Shen's expression finally changed. "How are you able to see it?" Gu Shen asked. "Why weren't you sleeping then?" A bubble of snot popped out from Ah Hong's nostril. He wiped it away and began glancing around again. Hearing his grandmother cursing outside, he continued. "The little slut was being beaten, and she was so loud she woke Grandma up. So Grandma went out to see and told me not to look." "Did you see Master Qian?" Ah Hong nodded without hesitation, and grabbed Gu Shen's sleeve to ingratiate himself with him. "Master Qian was dragon." What a shock it was. Who would have thought the mild-mannered tutor would turn into a murderer on that fateful, snowy night, killing and dismembering the Chens? The courtyard was awash in blood, as the bodies were dragged out of the house and exposed to the night with their heads facing up. A truly ghastly view. The only survivor was a young, innocent soul who had been coerced into being a play toy for a wolf in sheep's clothing. From the hints gleaned from just a few words, the Yemen personnel could surmise the truth behind this murder case. The typically overbearing Chen Ren had discovered the tutor's pedophilia, so he beat and scolded him. Qian Weishe in turn held a grudge against him, the animosity festering to a point, until it ultimately ended in tragedy. What a monster! The subordinate slapped the desk with indignation. How could he do this? And to think he'd studied the classics. Playing around with dirty meat in the brothel is one thing, but he even had the audacity to lay hands on a neighbor, who was only 7 years old. He's an animal. Tang Ji chuckled and pondered. How strange. Who is he referring to as the dirty meat? Why do they deserve to be played with? Are they not human? Why do humans put themselves in such clear categories that the rules vary from category to category? If that's the case, what's the use of having rules? Jinglin's eyes were calm as he recalled something. What makes you think spirits can escape such rules? All beings are bound by rules. I don't buy it, Tang Ji said. I'll treat someone the way he treats me. After a moment, Jinglin pressed the back of Tang Ji's head with a finger. You want to eat me, so does that mean I have to eat you too? Feel free, if you can. Life and death are neither decided by heaven nor by man. They're decided by us. Their conversation was once again interrupted. The subordinate was furious and wanted to arrest Qian Weishe and bring him to justice. Gu Shen, however, had some reservations, being skeptical of some of Ah Hong's words. First of all, how could Qian Weishe have subdued 4 people? While 2 of them were elderly, the power of their resistance in the moment of life and death should not be underestimated. This was assuming all 4 were caught unawares when the murders happened. Secondly, it would be tough to convince the public that they had caught the perpetrator simply based on a statement from a boy. Just then, Ah Hong stood on tiptoes and whispered in Gu Shen's ear, "Give me 3 copper pieces, and I'll tell you. I saw where Master Qian hid the knife." The knife was not the average kitchen knife. It was a large, heavy cleaver seen in butcher shops around town. Not even bones could withstand a blow from it, let alone flesh. The blood-stained cleaver had been hidden between the adjoining woodsheds belonging to the Chens and the old widow. Having been thrust firmly into a crack, it went undetected when the runners had conducted their first search. When Gu Shen knocked on Qian Weishe's door again, the latter seemed prepared. He folded up a white threadbare handkerchief and placed it into his chest pocket, then looked on calmly as the constables searched his residence and dug out pieces of girls' clothing from a small chest. There were also shoes and toys. Chen Xiaoyu had not used them much, since most looked brand new, but they had been put aside for so long that moths had already done damage. He had lured in an ignorant little girl with such cheap and crude stuff. Now that the Yamen personnel knew the truth, all they could think of when he looked at Qian Weishe's face was just how filthy this man was. How could you lay hands on her? Gu Shen's subordinate was in the prime of youth, and when he arrested Qian Weishe, he was so rough that the tutor fell to his knees and slammed into the ground. He gave Qian Weishe another heavy kick, but it did nothing to relieve his anger, so he could only swear, "You're worse than a fucking animal." Qian Weishe gasped heavily with his face stuck to the ground. Jaws clenched, he let them drag him out. They subjected him to private torture before he was taken into the Yamen. By the time he was shoved before Gu Shen, he was so badly beaten he was barely recognizable. "Qian Weishe." Gu Shen approached him. "Did you kill the Chens?" The tutor squeezed out a weak smile from his bruised and swollen face. This had finally worn down his learned civility to nothingness. "Did they not deserve to die?" He spat bitterly. "Let me tell you, they all deserved it." "I don't believe you." Gu Shen yanked him off the ground. "You did it? The way you are, you couldn't have even moved one of Chen Ren's fingers. Fool me once, shame on you. But you ain't gonna fool me a second time. Who do you think I am? Did you think I'd buy it? Bah!" Qian Weishe's feet dangled off the ground. His throat tightened, and he choked on the blood that had risen due to his injuries. "I drugged them," he rasped. An unconscious Chen Ren was just poultry waiting to be slaughtered. Whether you believe it or not is none of my business. The bodies were dismembered, can't be pieced whole. Even the coroner can't tell them apart. How had he wronged you? Why kill him? Qian Weishe suddenly choked up. He bit through his lower lip, looking devastated. "I'd taken a fancy to the girl. That damn Chen Ren. He got in my way. Humiliated me. I couldn't bear it. I couldn't bear it. I'm worse than an animal." Gu Shen was about to continue when his subordinate rushed through the door. "What's the matter?" Gu Shen barked. The subordinate looked at a loss, stammering, "Chief, Donglin. He's come to give himself up." Stunned, Gu Shen released his grip. "He said he'd killed all 4 of the Chens 5 days ago, and Chen Xiaoyu is in his hands." The first time Gu Shen had met Donglin was a chance encounter in his early years. Anyone who had laid eyes on Donglin would never have imagined him to be a renowned bandit, for he was truly an inconspicuous person. When Donglin sat hunched over by the wall, even Gu Shen had to take a second look before he could spot him. "So that's him." Tang Ji eyed the bandit. "He sure is a hard one to find." Jinglin tapped his folding fan on his knee. "He hasn't got the bell on him." "Who cares?" Tang Ji bared his sharp teeth. "If we can't find it, we'll eat him." Gu Shen sat before Dong Lin and looked into his eyes for a moment. I didn't think you'd end up like this. You reap what you sow. Dong Lin took off his woolen hat, revealing his face in its entirety. He looked gaunt, barely able to keep his droopy eyes open. Only the contours of his face were still sharp. He scrutinized Gu Shen in return. You haven't gone home yet. It ain't that easy to return home after you've been missing for 30 years. The trafficker who abducted me is already 6 feet under. I don't know how long I still need to find my home. Gu Shen raised his hand, and his subordinate brought over 2 jars of cool liquor. He opened one and tossed it over to Dong Lin. Nestled in a nook, the 2 men clinked their jars together and tilted their heads back to drink. Gu Shen wiped his mouth and placed the jar beside him. Tell me everything. Chen Ren was an avid gambler and owed me 6 gold pieces. I didn't earn much last year, so I had to collect some debts by year's end. I called on him many times, but he kept trying to fob me off. I had no choice but to go to his house late at night to demand repayment, but I didn't expect his entire family to be awake at that hour. I started quarreling with Chen Ren, and his old man wanted to report me to the Yemen, which I couldn't have let happen. On a whim, I cleaned out the whole family. Dong Lin sipped some cold drink and slowly exhaled before continuing. Only, I didn't know they had a little girl. I don't touch children, so I spared her. With your skill, getting out of town should have been easy. Once you're out of town, all you need would be to find a family for her, and you could have made your getaway. Although I'm on orders to investigate, I'd still have to report to the higher authorities when the deadline arrives. Then I'd have to wait 3 to 5 days for the new official orders to be issued before I could leave town to take you down. It would have been the perfect opportunity, yet you delivered yourself right into my hands? As soon as he sees Dong Lin, he turns from a tiger into a cat. Cang Ji caught hold of Jing Lin's fan and drew it closer. He acts so differently around this bandit. Won't his men suspect them of collusion? Misery loves company. Jing Lin tapped the carp on the head with his fan, and the little figure promptly toppled over. The Chens deserved to die, but not Cao Yu. Seeing her reminded me of my daughter. I spent my whole life lurking in the darkness. I ain't a good man. Dong Lin looked up at Gu Shen with a faraway look in his eyes. That's why I had to suffer the heart-wrenching pain of having my flesh and blood torn from me. There's no turning back for me, so why drag another one down with me? I might have been able to tolerate those words if you hadn't slaughtered her family, but the reality is, you did. Gu Shen put his foot on a stool. After holding himself back for a moment, he continued. She's now all alone, and she has no other family. How do you expect her to? They deserved to die, Dong Lin repeated. Deserved to die. You pay scant regard to the law, and you still have the cheek to say that? Veins bulged on the back of Gu Shen's hand. Dong Lin, do you really have complete disregard for the law? Dong Lin finished the liquor and tossed the jar. I'm here, he said to Gu Shen. What are you waiting for? I'm waiting for the truth. Gu Shen abruptly stood up. You say you're the murderer. Tian Wei-shi says he's the killer. Why are both of you fighting to be the perp? I don't know who that is, Dong Lin said flatly. Perhaps he recognizes you. Tian Wei-shi, do you recognize him? His subordinate brought Tian Wei-shi out. The scholar had his face covered and his hands bound. Only his eyes were exposed. Never seen him before, he answered. Dong Lin gave a wry laugh, but the constable spoke. Chen Ren was always hanging around the streets and was known to harass people and stir up trouble. If Tian Wei-shi were the culprit, he'd need to have a meticulous plan, but he's skinny and lacks strength in his torso, so he wouldn't have been able to dismember them even if he'd managed to kill them. Dong Lin's an exceptional fighter. It would have indeed been a breeze for him to commit murder, but it would have also taken quite a while to finish the time-consuming and laborious task of dismembering the bodies, especially if we consider the presence of the little girl. Gu Shen rested his hand on his sword as he spoke. That is, unless both of you joined forces to divide up the work. If I'd wanted help, why would I have found a student of the classics? Dong Lin placed his hands on the table, allowing himself to be restrained. I can recall how I murdered and dismembered them. First, I knocked Chen Ren unconscious in the bedchamber, then gagged his wife's mouth. However, I saw that his old man and old woman wanted to run and shout for help, so I struck down the old woman with my blade first. By this time, the old man had reached the door. I ran the blade through his chest from behind and hoisted him back. These two were old and feeble, and very much dead. Then I looked over and saw the wife trying to climb over the wall and flee, so I grabbed her hair, dragged her back in, and ended her with the slash of my blade. When I went back inside, I stabbed Chen Ren thrice more and dragged him out of the room. As I passed by the shed, I noticed he was still breathing and struggling, so I grabbed a piece of wood at random and smashed him a few times in the face till he was all but a bloody pulp. Then I heard a gasp from the house on the left, and saw an old woman with gray hair scrambling back inside in a panic before shutting the door. I wanted to tie up that loose end, but I didn't think it wise to leave the bodies in the courtyard for too long, and I suspected she might not have seen who I was anyway, so I turned back and continued to deal with the bodies. At first, I didn't want to dismember them. Donglin's voice was steady, but his eyes flashed with the ferocity of an outlaw. But I didn't want to let Chen Ren off lightly. Even cutting him into pieces was not enough to clear my ill feelings towards him. I braved the snow, and stole a cleaver from the smith 3 streets away, and dismembered the bodies. I couldn't take the thing with me afterwards, so I shoved it into the gap between the sheds and covered it up shoddily, thinking it wouldn't matter even if you managed to find it. How's that for you? Ask this good man again. How did he kill them? I reckon he can't even lift the cleaver. Not once had Qian Wei-shi looked at Donglin, but his hand trembled at every word the bandit said. No, I first drugged the Chens 2 months ago. Would Chen Ren have let you in? Besides, there are usually only women and children at home. How could you enter another man's house without good reason? Donglin stared fixedly at Qian Wei-shi. I don't know why you're taking the blame for me, but you and I are strangers. I can't afford to owe you this favor. Qian Wei-shi trembled, his tears falling as he choked with sobs. Ever since I took up martial arts, my name's been my trademark. To claim responsibility for my acts is to smear my reputation and rob me of my means of living. Donglin's expression darkened. It'd be equal to killing my father. Don't you wish to live, my man? Tang Ji felt Jinglin stiffen at the last utterance. The folding fan that he was turning with his fingers slowed down for a moment before falling onto his knee again. Although the moment had passed, Tang Ji sensed that Jinglin had been disturbed by it. Don't you wish to live? Tang Ji had the vague impression that he had heard it somewhere. The folding fan suddenly obscured his view. Jinglin was looking at him out of the corner of his eye. Why are you staring at me? Why else? Tang Ji replied. To look at you, of course. Jinglin did not answer. Stony intermittently jabbed Tang Ji in the back, perhaps also being in a low mood. Tang Ji caught the figure's finger and turned back to ask, Why are you upset all of a sudden? Stony cocked its head and gave him a light kick. Below them, Qian Wei-shi had not spoken, appearing rather calm with his hands by his side. He wiped away his tears. Within the past few days, his hair had begun to gray. The old woman witnessed the incident, but she's playing dumb, Donglin said. That boy was pissing by the wall and even locked eyes with me. Why did he turn around and say it was someone else? Their testimonies are in conflict, yet the authorities have accepted them as fact. The subordinate argued. Regardless, we found girls' clothes in Qian Wei-shi's house. The neighbors all saw him in Chen Caoyu. That has nothing to do with me, Donglin said. I only admit to my crimes. If you genuinely want the best for Chen Caoyu, you shouldn't cover up for Qian Wei-shi. Gu Shen refused to budge. You two must be acquainted. The future of Chen Caoyu is none of my business, much less what kind of person Qian Wei-shi is. Are you trying to make me give false testimony so you can use me to implicate this unrelated man? Donglin questioned. If what you truly want is to kill this man, I don't mind giving you a hand. The more unreasonable you act, the more I don't believe this. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. The chains on Donglin's wrist clanked as he pushed his arms forward to lean over the desk. "You've hit the deadline for this case, and the Yemen's waitin' for an explanation for a homicide of this scale. You got irrefutable evidence to indict the perp. Maybe you don't want to believe it, but the magistrate will." "You sure have the time limit of the case down pat." Then it dawned on the constable. "You've been lying low in the town, waiting for the time to run out." A smile slowly emerged on Donglin's face. His finger traced a circle around his neck. "Off with my head, and everyone will be satisfied." "I must get to the bottom of this," Gu Shen said, "if it's the last thing I do." "Why so stubborn?" Donglin sat up straight. "Gu Shen, why can't you admit it? This case is clear for all to see." His eyes drifted away again as he mumbled, "Send me on my way quickly so I can join my little girl." Gu Shen was pent up with anger and had nowhere to vent, but just at this moment, Qian Wei-shi spoke. Bending over, the tutor pushed the messy hair out of his face and, for the first time that day, met Donglin's eyes. The man spoke in a trembling voice. "I want to seek redress for a grievance." "You owe Qian Wei-shi money. Your old woman had a sudden medical emergency, and you didn't have enough money, so you pleaded with Qian Wei-shi. He lent you 50 copper pieces, but he didn't put it down on paper." The constable pinched his forehead while he interrogated the waiter. "Is that right?" The waiter was so terrified his face was ashen. "There's no written evidence, so if anything had happened to him, you wouldn't have had to return the money." Gu Shen urgently tapped his fingers on the desk. "What was that you said to me? I never borrow money. If he hadn't lent you the 50 pieces, what would you have used to save your mother?" The waiter stammered, inarticulate. For the sake of the—" "Shut up," Gu Shen snapped. "You want me to repeat what you've been scheming?" No." The anxious waiter dropped to his knees and began crawling. I did borrow money from him, but I didn't want him to die. I'd never fabricate tales when the Yamen is investigating the case. He does often bring along Chen Xiaoyu. If he didn't have any ulterior motives, how would you good officers have found all the evidence?" "You gave false testimony to obscure the facts." Gu Shen jabbed a finger on the waiter's forehead. "You're so dead." Panicking, the waiter hugged Gu Shen's leg and pleaded, "I really got nothing to do with this case. Constable Gu, sir, please try to understand. I was just afraid of being involved. Then my mother might—" "At the very least, he saved your mother once." Gu Shen looked down at him. "And you repay him with lies?" "I can return the money. Yes, I can." The waiter tightened his grip on Gu Shen, so agitated that he burst into tears. "But if I'm implicated and end up in prison, then—" Gu Shen kicked him away, finding little pleasure in resolving this injustice. Donglin was sentenced to prison by the prefectural magistrate. The case was then closed as he awaited execution. Qian Wei-shi had suffered for several days in prison, but was able to leave unharmed. When he stepped out of prison, he saw Constable Gu. Gu Shen did not have that high of an authority, so he was not involved in all the subsequent procedures. Being a constable might have looked imposing, but in actuality he was not as favored as the one who cleared the magistrate's chamber pot. He had been squatting outside the prison since early morning, waiting for Qian Wei-shi. "I saw Chen Xiaoyu last night. There's something I've been wanting to ask you," Gu Shen said. Qian Wei-shi slowly returned his greeting, looking as if he was all ears. "You would have certainly been beheaded if Donglin hadn't turned himself in." Gu Shen approached through the snow. His old coat had been worn short, with some cotton fillings spilling out from the elbow area. Indeed, he had something in common with Qian Wei-shi, the air of solitude their slovenly appearances exuded. "I thought about it long and hard, and I couldn't figure you out. There are at least a dozen children on this street, but you set your sights on Chen Xiaoyu. Why? If you had a sick fetish, you wouldn't have chosen a girl with such a plain face, would you?" After turning it over in my mind, I thought about it backwards, and I think I can see, at least partly, what's true and what's false. Gu Shen exhaled a puff of hot air, covering his face behind a veil of haze. The child so thin not because of illness, but hunger. Ah Hong said you fought with Chen Ren, but that wasn't because of what you did to Chen Cao Yu, but because you knew what Chen Ren did to her. Master Qian, what exactly did they do to her?" Qian Wei-shi clutched his thin sleeves, wringing the sweat-soaked fabric so hard that his fingers hurt. He tried to speak, but he was trembling so badly that his voice failed him more than once. "Death is too lenient a punishment for them," Qian Wei-shi rasped. Tang Ji was speechless, looking at the girl. "She's so tiny she wouldn't be enough for a snack." Jinglin sidestepped the table and approached the bed. He looked at the little girl tucked in bed, fast asleep. Her face was smaller than his palm, and she was so skinny she was barely a bag of bones. He brushed across her eyebrows with his fingertips. Just as he noticed her black plaits, the sound of a bell reverberated in his ears. "I've seen her," Jinglin said, "in my dreams." The thick smoke gradually parted, revealing Chen Cao Yu with her back to him as she played with the bell. She sprang forward in high spirits, often looking back to smile at Jinglin with curved eyes. All of a sudden, everything around him reversed, and Jinglin heard the jingle of the bell when he heard Donglin speak. "Watch your step." "Uncle Dong." Chen Cao Yu waved to him. The bell rang, and she shouted, "Are you leaving again? I want to go too. Won't you take me too?" Donglin's hand fell upon her head, and Jinglin felt the strong and steadfast affection within it. The love had been deeply entrenched inside the man, and because he had once lost the opportunity, he gave it all to Chen Cao Yu. The weight of this emotion was so heavy, Jinglin subconsciously took a step back. He might have felt it once himself. The bell clanged noisily, leaving Jinglin with a splitting headache. He saw Chen Cao Yu's face fade into another face he was familiar with. The little girl no longer called him Uncle Dong, but Jioge, as she held the bell. "Jinglin." He felt a weight on his back as Tang Ji reached his arms around him and waved a hand before him. "Why are you blanking out?" Sweating profusely, Jinglin felt as if he had woken up from a dream. He paid no heed to Tang Ji's close-up face. "I get it now. Donglin wasn't the one who stole the bell. It was the bell that found Donglin." Tang Ji was surprised. "I never realized it had legs, too." He was about to continue when he felt the man in his arms turn and hug him around the waist. Tang Ji nearly bit his tongue out of surprise. Even though he spoke about matters mindlessly, he had never been hugged. Thanks to his conceit, he had been as pure as a blank piece of paper. "I saw Donglin's story." The next thing he knew, Tang Ji heard the bell. The scene before him shattered into luminous light before it reconstructed into another image. And he saw it too. On a frosty night in late autumn, cold rain poured incessantly. Dragging legs that were filled with lead, Donglin slipped and fell along the edge of an arch bridge. He was disheveled, and his breathing was barely perceptible. The rain washed down his back, making breathing difficult. His eyes gradually lost focus, and his consciousness drifted. He lay face down on the ground, his hands and feet white from soaking in the water. Donglin clenched his jaws as moans escaped his throat. He buried his face in the filthy, icy mud, as though to hide his tears and sobs in the roar of the rain. He cried so hard his torso heaved unceasingly in the endless, pelting rain. The rain lasted the whole night, and he cried the whole time. It was morning when the rain cleared up. As a bullock cart passed over the bridge, the bull swished its tail, and several lumps of fresh dung flew off and splattered over most of his face. Donglin was dead inside, and he acted as such. The cart left the bridge behind, and the driver's whistling faded into the distance as the first light of dawn broke through the sky, stirring all living beings in the town. Not once did Donglin close his red and swollen eyes. He languished for death, not for anyone who came and went above. A skinny dog came over and sniffed him on the back and then the head before licking the dung on his face. Warmth spread over his face, igniting a flicker of fire within him. The dog butted his head to the side and dragged him by his shoulder under the arch, where river sludge and dirt had piled up. Several bones, licked so clean that they shone, pressed up against Donglin's face. The dog was going to take him as its meal and gnaw him clean before casting his bones aside with the others. Drool on his face, Donglin closed his eyes. He felt the dog tearing away the cloth on his shoulder to gouge his flesh. Fangs dug into his flesh, and the pain caused Donglin to bark out a stifled laugh. "Gotta break my neck before you eat me," he coaxed hoarsely. The dog could not wait, but it was old and weak, and could only gnaw on the meat but not tear it off. Anxious, it grunted and wagged its tail. Donglin smacked it and crawled closer. "Use more force." Donglin grabbed the dog by the nape of its neck and pressed it towards himself. "Here. Bite." Held by the scruff, the dog cowered and wagged its tail continuously, licking Donglin's eyes and nose. Donglin pushed it away. Useless. He collapsed back into the filth and wiped away the remaining dung. He was waiting to die, but then, plop, someone fell into the river. Donglin did not want to care since it had nothing to do with him. He heard the person sink. Other than the initial splash, there was nothing else. She fell. A passerby on the bridge looked around, arms folded. Or did she jump? Dunno. Didn't get a clear look. The vendor of the stall pulled his head back. Just 7 or 8 years old. How pitiful. The next thing they knew, there was splashing coming from under the bridge. A filthy and stinky beggar had dived into the water. A few moments later, he hauled the little girl out. After Donglin carried her ashore, he wiped the water off his face and patted her cheeks that were smaller than his palm. He might have caused harm if he had used a little more force. Donglin hesitated, then gave her light taps with 2 of his fingers instead. "Didn't your parents tell you not to play in the water?" Donglin gasped from the cold and hugged his shoulders. "It's such a cold day. No one will bother saving you next time." Chen Xiaoyu shivered as she struggled to stand up. She was shockingly thin, weighing much less than a stray cat in Donglin's hands. The man reached out to give her a hand, and she immediately covered her head and cowered, frightened to tears. Staring at her, Donglin retracted his hand. Both of them said nothing. The girl still had not put down her arms. "You get beaten a lot?" Peering at him through a gap in her arms, Chen Xiaoyu shook her head vigorously. Donglin eyed her wrists, then saw bruises and welts all over her arms. The spots where the beatings had been severe had developed into chilblains. Even the hungry dog looked more presentable than she did. Donglin looked away and fell silent. Chen Xiaoyu was so cold her teeth chattered. Having lost a shoe, she stood in the mud with one foot bare. As long as Donglin said nothing, she would not move either. Donglin fumbled in his pocket, his hand coming into contact with some money. In spite of himself, he eventually stood up, lifting Chen Xiaoyu by her back collar, and took the shivering girl up to the bridge to buy some hot buns. Chen Xiaoyu wolfed one down, stuffing her jaundiced cheeks full. She sniveled as she gulped, all the while looking at the man with her big, protruding eyes. Donglin felt as if he were crumbling into dust under her gaze. He could not bear it. All he felt was pain. "Now go." Donglin brusquely stuffed the rest of the steamed buns into the girl's arms, then turned her around by her collar and gave her a nudge. "Go home." Chen Xiaoyu stared at him, covering her mouth to prevent the food from falling out. She swallowed with all her might, unwilling to let go of the bit of mince filling. She was pushed forward a few steps. Intimidated by his display, she finally ran into the crowd. Donglin watched for a moment, then muttered, "Little ingrate." Unshaven, unkempt, and smelly, he walked through the crowd and climbed below the bridge once more to await death. The next morning, Donglin was resting in wet clothes, his face to the wall, when someone pushed him a few times in the back. "Shoo." Donglin felt weak all over. His temperature was so high that he felt muddled. He cracked his eyes open. "I don't have money to buy you more buns." Chen Xiaoyu knelt behind him and stuffed a scalding sweet potato into his arms. The tuber was shorter than his finger, Obviously some family's livestock feed. Feeling the scorch on his chest, Donglin stared at the wall and murmured, "Why won't you leave me alone?" Chen Xiaoyu hung back behind him, blowing at her sweet potato before peeling it. Donglin turned over and sat cross-legged. He flipped the sweet potato over to look at it, then threw it back to Chen Xiaoyu, who looked up, bewildered, and shrank back. Donglin leaned against the wall. "I'm not eaten." While Chen Xiaoyu peeled it and stuffed it into her mouth, Donglin sized her up. She was wearing new clothes today, although they did not fit her well. The shoes were also too big, looking like something a boy might wear. "You have someone taking care of you, don't you?" Donglin said. Chen Xiaoyu turned a deaf ear to him. She was so focused on eating that she appeared almost dull-witted. Donglin shifted over and pulled her arm straight to lift her sleeve, only to see the wounds from the day before had been dressed. Curiously, she was still eating, even with him manipulating her arm. "Don't come looking for me if you got someone caring for you." Donglin released her arm. "Stay with your family." The girl shook her head. Pulling her sleeve down, she looked at Donglin and shook her head vigorously. "Are you a mute?" "No." Her voice was quiet, like a breeze. "I'm not." "Then listen here. I'm a bad man, all right? Stay away from me. Go back home. And don't come here again." The girl did not budge, so Donglin grabbed her and pushed her out, but she pushed back with all her might. He hauled her up and was about to throw her out when she shrieked and gripped his hand. "No, please." She shook her head wildly. "I don't want to go back. Please." Donglin said nothing. She kicked off the shoes that were a size too big and leaned against him deliberately. Clinging onto Donglin's hand, she sniveled, "I beg you, please, don't send me back." Donglin felt suffocated. Without warning, he released the girl, letting her slide to the ground. She scampered back to a cranny and hugged herself as she clung close to the wall. While she sobbed incessantly, Donglin picked the shoes up and put them on for her. "Why?" He buried his head into his arms in defeat. "Why won't you go home?" She wiped her tears. "It hurts." "What?" Donglin looked up. "Do your parents beat you?" What kind of parents could bear to hit their child? At least Donglin would never. If he could be reunited with his baby girl, he would guard her in his palms and give her everything she would ever want. How he wished to give her everything in this world. He could not imagine hurting even one of her fingertips. But Chen Xiaoyu was unwilling to say more. She cried until her face was streaked like a tabby cat. Donglin wanted to wipe her tears, but he realized he was too dirty. So he scrunched up her sleeve to clear her nostrils. He wiped her nose until it turned red, but she put up with the irritation. Donglin failed to drive her away, and she ended up coming every day. He had been dragging out his feeble existence, but now he had a concern that tied him down. At first, he thought Chen Xiaoyu had parents to care for her, and she was only throwing a tantrum, but then he started to notice oddities. The girl kept showing up wearing new clothes, and she was cleaned up every time, but once he lifted her sleeves, he could see signs of trauma caused by rot of some kind. The layers of new and old wounds told a cyclical story of abuse. After she was given medical attention, she would get hit even harder. As if by virtue of those pretty clothes, the abusers could do whatever their hearts desired. Squatting under the bridge, Donglin waited for the girl to finish eating a pastry before rising to his feet. "Where do you live? Start walking." Chen Xiaoyu looked at him blankly. He wrapped his stinky clothes around his head, transforming into a complete lunatic. "Go on," he said. "I'll watch from behind." Chen Xiaoyu made her way home along the usual route. From time to time, she looked back at Donglin as she trotted through the crowd, while the man lay low and followed her from a safe distance, ignoring all looks of impatience and contempt. As Xiaoyu was skipping in happiness, she bumped into someone. Carrying his books, Qian Weishe leaned over to lead her by her hand. "What's the hurry? Watch where you're going." Chen Xiaoyu grinned at him and gesticulated happily as she skipped. Qian Weishe produced a sweet from his sleeve and stuck it into her palm. "Want to come to the private school with me?" Putting the sweet into her mouth, she shook her head. Qian Weishe did not insist. stroking her fluffy head instead. Then go home. He isn't home today. The cheerful girl walked ahead of the tutor and waved goodbye to him. Hidden within the masses, Donglin sized Qianwei Shi up. The latter was waving back to the girl. Donglin continued to follow her. On seeing her entering the lane, he vaulted onto the rooftop, stepping on tiles as he watched her stop before an entrance. Unable to find Donglin around, she turned back, anxious and unwilling to go in. What a silly girl. He was about to throw a pebble down when a woman opened the door. Hey. Smiling, Zhou stepped out to take the girl's hand. She glanced left and right but saw no one. She bent over. Back so early today, my dear? I was just thinking of ya. Chen Xiaoyu shook off the woman's hand. She was still looking for Donglin. What? Zhou said softly. Do you still want to play some more? The girl vigorously shook her head and covered her face with one hand. Zhou dragged her inside by the hand. The moment the door closed, the woman's expression changed to an angry frown, and she pinched the girl and slapped her on the head. What you doing away from home every day? Hiding from us? Don't be a little whore like your mother and get knocked up without telling nobody, Zhou spat. You're so young, and you're already a slut. Walking the street day and night. What, you're trying to get the tutor to help you again? Why the heck should he? You must be feeding him nonsense. That's why he started sniffing around, ain't it? Chen Xiaoyu shielded her face, crying. I didn't tell him. Auntie. Keep your trap shut. Zhou yanked her hair and jabbed her on the forehead. Say one more damn word, and your grandfather will be the first one to whip your ass. And your uncle's right behind. Her scalp hurt so much that Chen Xiaoyu sobbed as she nodded. What you crying for? Zhou bellowed while hitting her. Who the heck are you putting on a show for? Do you want the townsfolk to think I treat you poorly? You're the apple of my eye, Xiaoyu. New clothes, new shoes, and new socks. Not one damn thing lacking. Everything my son would have had, I've given to ya. But you just don't know when to be content, do ya? Stop crying already. Eyes glaring, she pinched Chen Xiaoyu so hard the girl yelped in pain. After letting go, Zhou circled around a few times before grabbing the door bolt. Nudging her slightly tousled hair bun, she pointed to the steps. Put on a coat and lay down. Chen Xiaoyu burst into tears and began retreating, chanting, Auntie, please, please, I'm sorry. I ain't even started, brat. Zhou kicked the girl and used the bolt to smack her on the waist. But then, a tiny object whistled through the air. Her blow missed. Who said you could dodge? Zhou shrieked. An old lady coughed in the bedchamber. Keep your voices down. The folks can hear ya. Oh, be my guest. Chen Ren emerged from behind the door curtain, rubbing peanuts between his fingers. Show me one family in this town that don't hit their kid. Plus, they ain't got no right to nose into our private matters. This man evidently instilled more fear in Chen Xiaoyu. She was shaking like a leaf, too scared to even cry. Chen Ren raised Xiaoyu's thin, pointed chin suggestively and studied it. My pretty Xiaoyu, you haven't been beaten silly by your auntie, have you? Shh. Woman, how many times do I gotta tell you not to hit her face? She might fetch a good price when she grows up. He played with her chin like a lascivious rascal. Don't count on selling used goods for a good price, though, Zhou sneered. Won't work if you don't keep your hands off her till then. What, is it getting harder to keep it in your pants now she's getting bigger? She's your niece, for crying out loud. Why the heck not? Chen Ren's gaze was like a predator. Keep the good stuff in the family, you know. You ain't got any fertile soil, but I gotta sow my seed one way or another. Nothing wrong with family taking care of family. Zhou snorted and pinched the girl. You hear that, little bastard? Your uncle wants you to grow up quicker. He'll be happy if you can bear him 2 babies in 1 year, and when he's happy, you know you're gonna be happy. Holding her in his arms, Chen Ren rubbed his palms aggressively all over her. Quit your yappin'. What does she know about anything? I don't give a damn if she's grown up or not. I like him smaller anyway. Tears streamed down Chen Xiaoyu's face as she stared at Chen Ren in fear. The lecher shooed Zhou's hand away and gave the girl a rough rub on the inside of her elbows. Not every day I can catch her like this, but as much as I want to have more fun, I got something to sort out at the club. I'll be back later, and I'd better see drink and meat on the table. Despite Zhou's grumbles, He stuffed his pocket with silver pieces and left. He walked out of the door, humming a tune. As he was about to leave the lane, someone struck him on the back. He toppled over, incapacitated. Head wrapped in dirty clothes, Donglin dragged Chen Ren to a discreet cranny and stomped on the lecher's lower back. Chen Ren wailed in agony, thinking he had become the victim of a robbery. Voice quavering from pain, Chen Ren pleaded, "Let's talk this over. Goodness me, who are—" "You owe me money." A hoarse voice boomed from behind. Keeping his own identity hidden, Donglin held down Chen Ren's head as he stuck the blade of his dagger against the lecher's neck. "I'm going to follow you every second of the day, watching your every move. I want not just your money, but your life, too." "Money? That's easy." Stuck to the ground, Chen Ren forced a chuckle. "I got some in my pockets for you." Stepping on the inside of the lecher's knee, Donglin gagged his mouth with dirty clothes. Chen Ren trembled from the pain. His mouth was stuffed so full that he could only grunt and gasp for breath. "I got a bit of a fetish, you see," Donglin said matter-of-factly. "I love to kill scumbags who physically and verbally abuse women and children. I boil some oil and pour it down their shirt, right here." Donglin scraped his dagger across Chen Ren's neck. "When the oil hits the skin, it cooks it till it's just right. Heard it's like nothing you've ever felt. You want to try?" Chen Ren shook his head frantically. "I'll be watching you," Donglin growled. "Don't give me a reason to satisfy my fetish." Chen Xiaoyu was wearing a new hat, while Donglin was still in tatters. His beard was so prickly and dirty it obscured his true appearance. Other than lying around on the Chen's rooftop, he did not have anywhere else to be. On the first snowy day, he thought of Huadi. The silly woman was still waiting for him at the door. Donglin saw her get in a squabble, arms akimbo, only to go home and cry into her pillow until the cover was soaking wet. He would be lying if he said he did not care about Huadi, but he knew he was not good enough. He was a useless man who only knew how to steal, and it was only fitting that his daughter had been stolen from him. He knew he would not live a long life, so he never asked Huadi to be with him. He would only watch over her and Chen Xiaoyu, as if that would somehow make up for it. He never made promises to anyone, because he knew he could not keep them. Chen Xiaoyu followed him from the beginning of winter to the middle. When Donglin was in a good mood, he would carry her on his shoulders and tread across ice and water, though he was usually in a bad mood. But Chen Xiaoyu was not afraid of him. She opened up and became bolder, and she always greeted him as Uncle Dong in a bright, cheerful voice. On the first full moon of the new year, the two of them squatted under the bridge to release a lantern, as per tradition. The rabbit-shaped knick-knack only cost several copper coins, yet it brought great excitement to Chen Xiaoyu. As she lit the wick, she said softly, "Master Qian said I could make a wish." "That's a lie," Donglin said. "He doesn't lie." Chen Xiaoyu meticulously adjusted the lantern and said, "Uncle Dong, you make a wish too." He wiped a hand over his face. "You make one for me." Chen Xiaoyu knelt by the water and said with all sincerity, "I want to leave this place with Uncle Dong." "I see," Donglin responded hoarsely. She looked at him. Her eyes were pressing, imploring him to answer yes, but Donglin averted his eyes, feigning obliviousness, all while feeling melancholy. "It's fine if you can't." Chen Xiaoyu patted her cheeks and smiled. "You gotta eat properly, take baths, and just live well. Don't go away. Well, you can, maybe from time to time." Wiping her eyes, she whispered, "If only you were my papa." "I can't possibly be." Donglin clenched his hands, helpless. "Where is he anyway?" "Never met him." Chen Xiaoyu picked up the lantern and sent it into the water. "Only my mother has." "You got a kid, too. Where's her mother?" "Dead." Chen Xiaoyu watched the lantern drift away. Fingers gripped on her clothes, she asked timidly, "Are you going to leave with your daughter once you find her?" Donglin was silent for a moment. Then he stroked Chen Xiaoyu on the head. He stared at the lantern and replied despondently, maybe." Chen Xiaoyu nodded, and both fell silent. Donglin opened his mouth, then closed it, then opened it again, but no sound ever came out. He heard the girl sniffling, but no matter what, there was no way he could answer truthfully. He felt as if his heart were being ground by a knife, and his eyes stung, but in the end, he only patted her on the back of her head to comfort her. Such was one of the flaws of human relationships. As soon as they started spending time together, they grew to care for each other, which was indeed heartwarming, but also dangerous. When Donglin sensed this emotion blooming within him, he decided to bid farewell to Chen Xiaoyu. He could never assume another identity and become her father, nor could she replace his daughter and his memories of her. He could, perhaps, continue to watch over her, but there was no longer a need for affection. It was merely his remaining responsibility. As long as Chen Xiaoyu grew up without hardships, he would be satisfied with what he was able to achieve in this brief friendship across generations. "I'll be leaving after the spring festival." Donglin withdrew his hand. "I gotta keep looking for my daughter." Chen Xiaoyu gazed at him, nose red from all the crying, and asked meekly, "Can't you take me with you?" I can't," Donglin replied. "I can't." Chen Xiaoyu looked at him blankly as her tears fell. "I don't eat much, and I don't want new clothes, and I won't be mean to her. You really can't take me along?" There was a lump in Donglin's throat. He was going to be blunt. "You're not my daughter." "But I want to be your daughter, too." Donglin nearly cried out loud. He lowered his head. "I see. I want to be your daughter, too." Hearing this utterance, Donglin felt the heaviness in his chest dissipate. The warmth in its place was extraordinary. So many years spent on an aimless journey all led to this, and now he finally got to hear it, though it was not what he had expected. "If anyone ever hurts you, you shout for me," he said, eyes reddened. "I'll be back by your side in an instant, and beat him up, even if I have to fly through the sky and burrow through the earth to do it. You hear me? I ain't your papa, but I won't let nobody hurt you." Donglin gave her a piggyback ride home, and she was good the whole time. She did not cry, neither did she plead with him again. When she was let down, she held onto Donglin's shirt. "If I shout for you," Chen Xiaoyu asked, seeking confirmation, "will you really come?" "You shout for me," Donglin bumped her little finger, "and I will come." Releasing her grip, she called out softly amidst the snow, "Uncle Dong." Donglin crouched down. "I promise." Chapter 6. Donglin had meant to go into hiding, but after finding from Huadi's dresser the account book with her redemption price marked on it, he decided to make one last trip. The flood dragon was occasionally spotted on the East Sea coast, which reportedly indicated the presence of treasure in the mountains. There was no treasure in the world that Donglin balked at stealing, but not wanting to steal for his final act, he packed his bags and hurried towards the coast. Before leaving, he reined Chenren in again. "I ain't leaving till I get the money." Donglin kept his voice low. "I still got my eyes on you, so you'd best behave." Chenren nodded vigorously, and Donglin kicked him again. "Tell your broad to be careful, too," Donglin added. "Get on my nerves, and I'll skin her alive." Chenren still did not know who this man was, but the latter knew about his pillow talk with Zhou. As long as he hit or swore at anyone, the man would drag him to a nook somewhere and beat him up. After a couple of times, Chenren smartened up and would even speak mildly at home. Donglin climbed over the wall and disappeared. Chenren crawled up to his feet, rubbing his lower back as he swore under his breath. "Was that him again?" Zhou exclaimed when she saw him stumbling into the house, evidently injured. "Shut up." Chenren shoved her away. "Bring me some medicine. That son of a bitch. If I ever find out who the fuck he is." Zhou glanced around as she went to take the medicine. "What should we do?" she whispered. We can't just have him snooping on us like this. Think of something, why don't you?" "He comes and goes like the wind." Chenren applied pressure on his injuries, while nervously glancing all around. "Money, money, money. It all comes down to money. Why don't you give me some money? Once we pay up, he'll be on his way." You've emptied Father's funeral fund. Where else can we find more money? You know this wouldn't have happened if you hadn't gambled. Now we're all sufferin' thanks to ya. Bein' your wife's been hard enough, but I ain't givin' up my life for ya." Joe hurled the medicine bottle at him. "I ain't got money. And you won't get no money, not unless we sell Cao Yu." Chen Ren booted her. "Shut your mouth, woman. He's gonna hear you." Joe crashed against the table and covered her face, crying. Unwilling to let the matter rest, she stomped angrily and yelled back, "What else am I supposed to do? I can't even talk about it now? She's our kid. How we deal with her is our own business, and nobody else has a say in it. If you ain't sellin' her, then are you gonna sell me? But I warn you, Chen Ren, get funny ideas about me, and I'll fight you to the death. Tell me, how the heck are we supposed to live like this?" Chen Ren was fuming. The ruckus she was creating vexed him. He dragged her up and made to slap her. "Go ahead, hit me," Joe cried out. "Let me see you try." Chen Ren made a show of releasing his hand and patting his clothes tidy. "Go fetch Father." He took a few steps, listening intently. When nothing happened, he walked back and slapped Joe so hard she had to brace herself against the table. Nothing happened. Chen Ren nervously scanned the place. "Shout again, and I'll beat you to death," he whispered. No sound came from the rooftop. No stones thrown down as usual. Chen Ren smacked his thigh and swore. "That son of a bitch was bluffin'." He's not here," Joe stated the obvious, hand on her face. Chen Ren whisked the door open and urged Joe on. "Quick! Quick! It's now or never. Go fetch Father, before that scoundrel returns." A few days later, Chen Xiaoyu rolled over to peer through the crack in the shed. The 4 adults were gathered in the main building, deep in discussion. Having been confined in the shed all night, she was cold and hungry. She could sense something bad was happening. A little while later, Old Man Chen came out through the curtain and placed a basin with some watery stock in front of the shed. Chen Xiaoyu shuffled over on her knees to the hole to peek at his expression. "Eat up." He rubbed his hand on some snow. "There's nothing for you the next meal." She stuck close to the crack, looking at him. He knocked on the wooden plank and squatted nearer to her. "You blabbed to anyone?" She shook her head. The old man forced a smile. "You want a beating so badly, don't you? Why would he have gotten suspicious if you hadn't blabbed? He was the one who put the ointment on you, wasn't he? My dear, you've been living off us. You should be grateful we didn't feed you to the dogs when your mother kicked the bucket giving birth." He felt Chen Xiaoyu on the arm to gauge the amount of meat on her. "Ungrateful fool," he spat. Although she struggled to pull her hand back, the old man tightened his grip and yanked her skinny arm through the gap. "Another ingrate just like your mother," he berated. "I fed her and raised her for nothing. When it came time to repay me, she went and brought shame on all of us. And now you're taking after her. Who told you to do that? Who does Qian Wei Shi think he is? If he talks to the authorities, I'll accuse him of taking money and ruining your honor. I bet he's wary of that, so he found a roguish character to intimidate me. I'm telling you, not a chance." Chen Xiaoyu cried out in fright. The world seemed to her to be full of malicious beings as she looked out beyond this gap. The old man's rough skin hung on either side of his mouth as his saliva splattered all over, reeking of decay. "Uncle Dong," Chen Xiaoyu sobbed. "Uncle Dong." Hard of hearing, Old Man Chen could not hear her well. He released her and slapped the curtain aside as he entered the main building. Before Chen Xiaoyu could catch her breath, Chen Ren stepped out. By this time, it was getting dark. The man slunk to the shed, opened the door, and made his way in. Chen Xiaoyu shrieked and clambered away, but Chen Ren grabbed the little girl by her foot, yanked her back, and pinned her down beneath him. While undoing his trousers, he gave her a slap. "Who are you crying out for? This is all your damn fault. Look at the trouble you've caused. You know you gotta redeem yourself, don't ya?" Her lips bleeding, Chen Xiaoyu bit down on his arm in her struggle, so he slapped her again so hard she nearly passed out. "Uncle Dong," she shrieked. "Uncle Dong." "What's going on here?" The old widow tiptoed to look over the courtyard wall, and when her eyes met Chen Ren's, her voice dropped to a grumble. "Quiet down, would ya?" Looking at the old woman, the girl sobbed, "Ma'am, help me." Chen Ren covered the girl's mouth and calmly cocked his head at the old widow. "Keep watchin', and I'll strangle that little bastard of yours. You still haven't returned the rice you borrowed from us last time, have ya? So mind your own damn business." With her walking stick, the old widow hobbled back to her house. "Whatever. I can't see nothin'," she murmured. "Ah Hong, stay away from the wall. How disgustin'." Ah Hong was standing on a pile of stones, watching and nibbling on sunflower seeds. Chen Ren cackled at him. When the little boy saw Chen Xiaoyu looking at him, he spat out some sunflower husks at her. "Bah!" Chen Ren continued his dirty deed. "You'll be gone once we sell you in a few days, so let me enjoy myself before your next papa comes along. It would have been worth raising you for all these years." "Uncle Dong!" Chen Xiaoyu screamed. Chen Ren pinched her cheeks and was about to lean in when a bellow rang out behind him. "What are you doing?" Qian Weisha scrambled over the wall, picked up a piece of firewood, and brandished it at Chen Ren. "What are you doing? Are you a monster? Get away from her. I'm reporting you to the authorities." On seeing the tutor, Ah Hong ducked below the wall. He sucked on the last broken bit of sweet in his pocket, thinking he would demand more sweets from the tutor later. Chen Ren clucked in frustration as his lust withered. Pulling up and securing his trousers, he stepped out of the shed with a smirk on his face. "Can't you see what I'm doing? What are you doing here? I'm the one who should report you for trespassing." Qian Weisha could scarcely breathe. Gritting his teeth, he charged up to Chen Ren and hit him. "What kind of man are you? You're a monster." Chen Ren shoved him to the ground with little effort, then grabbed Qian Weisha's stick and clobbered the latter with it. "Call me Papa, 'cause that's who I am. The gall of you to stick your fucking nose in my business." His blows were so ruthless, Qian Weisha could only curl up helplessly. Kicking Qian Weisha over, he circled him, then weighed the stick in his hand and struck the man on his waist. "You say it like you're a damn saint yourself. I'm gonna report you to the Yemen, too. I'll take you to court for bribing my niece with sweets into committing indecent acts. What a hypocrite you are. I'll slander you till your reputation's ruined. So go ahead, report me. I dare you." Chen Ren dragged Qian Weisha over to the courtyard entrance where the water vat was, lifted the lid, and shoved the tutor's head into the water. "Go on, report me." He pummeled the teacher in the back. Choking on the water, Qian Weisha shook his head. Chen Ren lifted him up. "Learn to take a hint, will ya?" and dunked him back into the water. Submerged underwater, Qian Weisha suffocated. "Go to hell." Qian Weisha repeated his curse as he dug his fingers on the edge of the jar. "Go to hell." Thousands of miles away, the energy above a mass grave surged, and the eyes of a Rakshasa blinked open. Thrown to the ground, the tutor coughed out water, his eyes vacant. The sky was completely dark by now, and snow started pelting his face. "Go to hell," Qian Weisha repeated. Chen Ren stomped on him a few more times as Zhou descended the steps for a look, worried. He already got one foot in the grave. What if he talks to the Yemen tomorrow? He wouldn't. Old man Chen was sitting in the main building, looking for his pipe. If he does, we'll just say he forced himself on Cao Yu. He loves being around children, doesn't he? So many people can be witness to that. He won't be able to clear his name if we all stick to the same word. That's right. On the bed, old woman Chen clapped her hands. We can even make him compensate us with silver. He'd have to with the officials watching. How much money would a poor tutor have? Chen Ren ejected a glob of spit with contempt and said to Zhou, "Hurry and take her inside." Zhou reluctantly dragged Chen Xiaoyu out of the shed, leaving a trail of footprints in the fresh snow. Then she lifted the curtains and pushed Chen Xiaoyu onto the bed. "Every extra person in the house means one more piece of charcoal burnt. You just couldn't finish your business before coming back in. Now I have to look at this and have my mood ruined." She yanked Chen Xiaoyu by the hair and swore, "You've got your uncle bewitched, haven't you slut?" As Chen Xiaoyu fell onto the bed, she knocked over the sewing kit in her grandmother's lap. The old woman cried out in annoyance and stood up to whack Chen Xiaoyu on the back. "Pick them up, now! Hurry! The needles are all sticking into the bedding." Chen Xiaoyu hid a pair of small scissors and hastily tidied up the needles and spools of thread. With the kit in her arms, she shrank into the corner. Meanwhile, Chen Ren kept humiliating Qian Wei Shi until the snowstorm intensified. He shivered as he blew on his hands, then hauled the tutor to the door. "Get out of my face, and don't let me The courtyard door opened with a creak, and Chen Ren fell back as if he had seen a ghost. Staggering and scrambling up the steps, he stumbled over his words. How? In the heavy snow, the door closed. Donglin strode in, with steps so light, even the sound of his blade unsheathing was louder. Ever so slightly, the bell tinkled. "My good man!" Panicking, Chen Ren slipped on the ground as he retreated towards the main building, his hands raised to put distance between him and Donglin. "We can talk it out." Donglin swiftly moved in, hauled Chen Ren up without giving him the chance to explain, and flung him through the curtain. Chen Ren cried out in pain as he tumbled to the ground. The woman inside shrieked. "What do you think you're doing?" Old Man Chen yelled, gripping his pipe. Chen Ren screamed as blood splattered. Holding his abdomen, he crawled in an attempt to hide. "Help! Save me!" His voice broke as Donglin grabbed his legs from behind. Bones shattered as Donglin crushed both of Chen Ren's knees, turning Chen Ren's howls into unsettling whimpers. Zhou shrieked into her hand as she moved back in an attempt to hide, shoving old woman Chen around in the process. The grandmother could only grope around blindly, unable to tell where anything was, and was scared out of her wits by the screaming around her. Donglin stood up, kicked Chen Ren aside, and entered the room. "Money! Yes, we got money. Here." In his desperation, Old Man Chen tore a hole in his sack, sending copper pieces rolling across the floor. He fell to his knees in a panic to grab them, then held them up to Donglin with both hands. Here you go. You can have them all." Donglin took off his hat, and his sweaty, clammy hair fell loose. Sword in hand, he wiped at the beads of sweat with the back of his hand. "I don't want your money." The man paid no heed to Old Man Chen's terror. "I want you dead." Old Man Chen went down, splattering Zhou with blood. Crying and cowering, she wiped the stickiness away with trembling fingertips. "This has nothing to do with me," she pleaded. "It has nothing to do with me. Please, don't kill me." Zhou trembled in fear as she crawled towards Chen Xiaoyu. "I'm her aunt." Zhou desperately pulled the girl into her arms. "All we got's each other. He's the one who... It's all him." She yelped as she pointed at her husband. "He's the one who beats her and yells at her and makes her work. He wants to have his way with her. She's so young. I didn't want to go along with it. Please, don't kill me." Hand stained with blood, Donglin moved his blade to his other hand and wiped the blood away on his robe. He looked at Zhou as if he were merely walking past her in the town. After wiping his hand clean, he beckoned to her. Hairs standing on end, she gripped Chen Xiaoyu tightly and refused to approach. The girl struggled in her arms as she shouted for her Uncle Dong, voice already hoarse from the crying. Panic-stricken, Zhou held on to her as if she were hanging on to a buoy. Chen Xiaoyu could barely breathe from her tight hold. "We're like mother and daughter," Zhou cried herself hoarse. "Please spare me. You can't kill me. If you kill me, what'll happen to her? She'll be scared, so have mercy." As she wept, she turned the girl's head towards Donglin and urged her on. You tell him. Tell him Auntie treats you well. Cao Yu, oh Cao Yu, tell him. Tell him." Chen Xiaoyu shook her head in defiance, so Zhou pinched her arms and screamed, "Say it! Tell him! Tell him!" Donglin stepped towards the startled woman, backing her up against the wall. Hair disheveled and eyes reddened, Zhou held Chen Xiaoyu in front of her to use as a shield. "Mister, please spare my life. I've never skimped on her meals and clothes. I've been good to her." But no matter how hard she wailed, Donglin remained unmoved, silent as his shadow obscured the dim light, completely killing off Zhou's last hope. Teetering on the edge of insanity, Zhou tightened her grip around the girl's neck. "Spare me. Otherwise, I'll strangle her to death. I'll take her with me. If I can't live, then she can forget about living, too." Frightened, Chen Xiaoyu burst into tears and pushed Zhou. Being choked, the little girl could only hammer down on the woman's chest as hard as she could. "Help, Uncle Dong!" Donglin sent the woman rolling across the floor with a violent kick. While she was crying, Donglin picked the child up, and the scissors tucked in her palm fell with a clank. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she locked her arms around Donglin's neck. "Uncle Dong! Uncle Dong!" Zhou slumped to the ground, clothes wet with the blood welling out from her chest. Still yet to breathe her last, her throat gurgled as she clutched her chest in disbelief. Qian Wei-shi slipped and fell squarely on the threshold of the door, scared witless by the pool of red on the floor. Murder! Chen Ren crawled with his arms and shouted, "Help me! Master Qian, help me! They're murderers!" He grabbed Qian Wei-shi by the leg and pleaded with him, tears and mucus flowing profusely. "Save me!" Qian Wei-shi trembled as he shuffled back, but Chen Ren would not let go of his leg. Fumbling around, Qian Wei-shi picked up a broken bowl, then slammed it down on Chen Ren's face with all the force he could muster. "Go to hell, you monster!" Chen Ren crumpled to the floor. Panicked, Qian Wei-shi threw away the bowl. Managing to climb to his feet after stumbling a few times, he fearfully shifted over to Donglin and almost fell when he stepped in the bloody puddles. Tears streamed down his face as he tentatively held out his arm. "Cao Yu. Cao Yu." Out of breath from crying, Chen Xiaoyu looked up at him. Qian Wei-shi covered her eyes and said to Donglin, "Run. Run far away, both of you. The coroner will examine the corpses. Since they didn't die from the same kind of injury, the Yamen officers will surely be suspicious. I could make a run for it, and Gushun still wouldn't believe you did it." "Then what shall we do?" Qian Wei-shi gasped, glancing at Zhou, who was about to breathe her last. Fear overcame him. What would they do to Cao Yu, then? "I'll tell them Chen Ren." "Who are you to her?" Qian Wei-shi cowered and stuttered. I'm her." He uttered a word, cutting a sorry figure under Donglin's gaze. Donglin relaxed his grip on Chen Xiaoyu. Eyes still covered, Chen Xiaoyu held on to Donglin's hand as the tutor took her into his arms. "Uncle Dong, aren't you coming with me? I want to stay with you." Donglin stroked her head, then looked away. "Take her and go to the bank on Willow Street on the east side. I'll meet you there." "My good man, what are you going to do?" Qian Wei-shi asked. "Good man," Donglin mouthed to himself before answering. "Just cleaning up the mess. You two go ahead. Also," he tucked the blade behind his arm and turned his back to the tutor, "I'm not a good man. I'm an outlaw." The old widow's mutterings woke Ah Hong up. Rubbing his eyes, he got up and mumbled to his grandmother, "I want to pee." She put her arms around him and whispered, "My sweetie, you can't now. Let's wait. I want to pee." Ah Hong kicked his legs and pushed her away. He slipped out of bed and ran outside, holding up his trousers with his hands. The old widow threw her clothes around her, felt for her walking stick, and ran after him. "Ah Hong, slow down. Come back as soon as you're done. It's cold outside. Don't you look next door. Everyone in that house is rotten. Don't play with that little whore when you go picking vegetables with Grandma tomorrow. She's a dirty little slut." In a daze, Ah Hong dropped his trousers and stared at the corner of the wall as he listened to his grandmother's trite remarks. "Like mother, like daughter. Both are whores. My dear Ah Hong, don't you ever touch her. She'll get you all dirty. That girl got so many schemes up her sleeve, casting spells on Master Qian every day so he gives her everything. But how many sweets has he given you, Ah Hong? None. Look at Chen Ren. He's nothing good either. Such disgusting filth. He even forces himself on his niece. Bah! Ah Hong. Oh, Ah Hong, don't take off your clothes like them. It's dirty, despicable, shameful." Yawning, Ah Hong lifted his trousers and saw the warm and sticky blood seeping underneath the wall and past his soles to merge with the yellow puddle he had left behind. He stepped on the stone pile and looked over the wall. The lamp in the Chen's house was still lit, casting a dim yellow light into the courtyard. Gagged and wide-eyed, Chen Ren was still alive, and his chest was heaving violently as he was dragged out of the building. A man with his back to him picked up the door bolt. "I told you. Donglin squatted and gripped Chenren's face. "What did I tell you?" Chenren shook his head furiously. "You'll remember." Donglin looked down at him and whispered, "I'll make you remember." Chenren strained to speak against his gag as he looked at Donglin in despair. Donglin breathed into his palms. "No oil in your house, so you've escaped a calamity. But I don't want you to forget the pain on the way to the underworld, so I'm going to give you a warning." Chenren struggled to move away as he watched that wooden bar rise and come down on him. A muffled, blood-curdling scream rose from his mouth. At the sound of the blow, Ahong felt a twinge in his nose and covered his face in fear. As he fell off the stones, he saw the man turn back, his eerie, malicious gaze so piercing that it made the boy cry. His grandmother frantically hobbled towards him, and he threw himself into her arms, so frightened he could not stop shuddering. Her repeated ramblings persisted in his ears. "Master Qian despises us 'cause we're orphan and widow. Don't go looking for him any more. He can continue on with that little whore. They're all unclean. Who knows where else they've been secretly hugging each other. Ahong, Ahong, have you remembered that? My dear, don't go around talking to Master Qian any more." Ahong gave a haphazard nod and repeated after her, "Master Qian, Master Qian." It was not until late in the night that Donglin had finally washed his hands clean. Carefully, he folded his belt, then stepped through the door, waking Qianwei Shu with a start. Eyes red and puffy, Chen Xiaoyu was asleep in his arms. Donglin knelt down on one knee and watched the little girl. Qianwei Shu motioned for him to hold her, but he shook his head. Donglin said, "My hands are dirty." He just stayed there and stared at her blankly. Then he leaned over and touched her forehead with his own. Chen Xiaoyu woke up in a daze and murmured, "Uncle Dong." "Here's the truth," Donglin said. "I actually can't fly through the sky and burrow through the earth. I shouldn't have lied to you." Chen Xiaoyu was inches away, eyes so clear and bright, cleansing him of his filth. "Have you found her?" she asked with concern. "I have. I'm leaving with her, so I won't be able to see you again." Tears slowly filled her eyes. She wiped them away. "Can't you take me with you, Uncle Dong?" "She won't be happy. She and her mother have been waiting for me for too many years." Chen Xiaoyu persisted. "Then I won't go with you. I can see you from time to time, can't I?" "The middle realm is so vast," Donglin said. "You won't find me, so don't waste your effort. Now that the bad guys are gone, all you gotta do is live a good, happy life, and you'll have repaid me for having fished you out of the river. Are you leaving me?" I'd never leave you." Donglin felt a lump in his throat. "Don't cry." He looked at her weeping face, but all he heard was the rainstorm in that late autumn. "My baby girl came through here and was put on a carriage heading north. Where is she? Tell me. I'll look for her myself." "Donglin, there's no point in going." "What do you mean there's no point?" "Donglin." His friend avoided his eyes. "They encountered heavy snow en route that year. All the girls in that carriage froze to death." "Froze to death, huh?" Donglin could barely control himself, trembling as he lowered his head. Tears rumbled down his face. He opened his mouth, then closed it, unable to get anything out. Despondently, he looked up and tried his best to smile at Chen Xiaoyu. "How could I leave you?" he said hoarsely. "But I've lived too long in the wintry night. The thought of leaving is so tempting. I wanna—" Their teary eyes met, and his voice broke as he struggled to finish his words. "I want to be free from it all." Chen Xiaoyu touched Donglin on the cheek. "Did I," she sniveled, "make you sad?" Donglin gently placed his cheek in her little palm. "You made me braver than I've been in the past few decades." "But I don't want to be away from you," she whispered. "We have different paths to walk," Donglin told her. "You go on ahead, and we'll say goodbye here." She was unusually stubborn. She pressed against Donglin's cheek and shook her head desperately, crying, "I don't wanna." Donglin stood up and drew back. Chen Xiaoyu started to struggle, wanting to break away from Qianwei Shu, but the tutor held on tightly. As she watched Donglin turn, she kept calling, Uncle Dong! Uncle Dong! It was as if she were going to shed all the tears of her lifetime right then and there. Lips bleeding, she hit Qian Wei-she and bit down on his arm, choking inconsolably on her sobs. The tutor hugged her tightly. All she could do was watch as Donglin opened the door and gave her one last look. Goodbye. Chen Xiaoyu felt as if it were not a wooden panel separating them, but a chasm. Even though she wailed and pounded on Qian Wei-she's arm, Donglin would only look at her from afar. He had left her in a place forever beyond her reach, just like the place beyond his grasp, where his daughter forever lived. With teary eyes, Chen Xiaoyu took a last look at him as his figure gradually vanished into the pitch-dark night. And then, light broke over the eaves, heralding the rays of a new dawn. Winter had come and gone. Tang Ji heard the little girl's cries recede into the distance. It was as if he had plunged under water, for his body felt like lead. The scene around him shattered into specks of light, and he snapped back to reality as a spell of coughing broke out beside him, followed by a heaviness in his arms. He saw Jinglin curling up in pain. "What's happened?" Tang Ji scooped Jinglin up. The latter was icy to the touch. "Just a relapse of an old ailment." Jinglin covered his mouth. "The hour is approaching. Donglin's end is near. He's bent on dying. We can save him, but not restore his will to live." Tang Ji pried open Jinglin's clenched fist, and frowned upon seeing the smudge of red still on Jinglin's lips. "It was just a walk through an illusionary scene. Why have you weakened so much?" "This isn't right," Jinglin said languidly. Qian Wei-she's hatred might have been enough to spawn the Rakshasa, but not enough for it to rush all the way here. He closed his eyes. After a while, he continued, "Donglin must have done something. I want to see him before his head rolls." Donglin was bent over, listening to the din beneath the platform. He felt the executioner's foot on his back. He gasped for air, forehead drenched in sweat under the glaring sun. The ground of the market was scattered with animal remains, rotten vegetables and fruits, all fermenting under the snow. The stench overwhelmed Donglin's senses. It would not be long before he would be a part of them, a pulp of rotting meat, a pool of filthy blood. "Donglin!" A woman's aggressive swearing rose amidst the crowd as she jostled through. Standing on tiptoes, Hua Di saw Donglin's face through the myriad of heads. She was beside herself as she caught sight of Donglin and began to shove her way through even more forcefully. "Out of my way! Out of my fucking way!" "The heck is wrong with ya?" A man pushed her back. "Oh, it's the town whore. No wonder. No proper woman would be out in public rubbing shoulders with men." "Bah!" Hua Di hawked a glob at him and pulled her clothes back, holding her head high. "So what, I'm a whore? I ain't touching your pants, am I? Look at those shifty eyes of yours wandering over my body, as if you're any better than a whore. Get out of the way. Or else I'll slap you so hard you ain't gonna recognize your own mama." "Oi, oi!" The man grabbed Hua Di's hand and gave his own cheek a pat with it. "There, I've let you slap me for free, so I reckon you should let me." His words turned into a howl as Hua Di gave him a kick, then slapped him in the face. The men around her erupted in a cacophony of voices, but no one could hold Hua Di back from throwing the man hard slaps. Then she adjusted the front of her clothes, and stood akimbo with one hand pointing at the crowd. "Get out of my way. Look at all of you lame fuckers getting excited. Bah! Falling over yourselves to watch a man get beheaded. What's so funny about that? Keep laughing, and we'll see whose neck gets chopped off next. I might be a dirty whore, but you're all foul, sickening monsters who are pleased to see another person suffering. You wish everyone would suffer just like yourselves. Stinking losers. Even the mud stuck to the bottom of my shoes is cleaner than you filthy bastards." Hua Di could scarcely catch her breath as she berated them. When she had finished, she wiped her tears and said solemnly, "I ain't a whore today. I ain't here to be part of your spectacle." Her eyes met Donglin's. "I'm here to send off my husband." The man laid into her. "You know he's the evil murderer who killed the Chens, don't you? But I suppose only a violent criminal can put up with a violent bitch. Your lover deserves to die for murdering an entire family." "The fuck do you know?" Huadi shrieked. "Load of horse crap." The yeoman's notice had it down in black and white. "Are you saying it's a load of horse crap?" The man incited the people on either side. "What kind of broad would love an evil murderer? I got no doubt she's a conniving bitch, too. For all we know, she had something to do with the Chen's murder, too. Let's beat her up. 4 of the Chens are dead. Why should the murderer pay with his one life? Beat her to death. At least we can get 2 for 4. "Beat her to death," someone shouted in agreement. "Avenge the Chens." Unable to dodge in time, Huadi was struck by an assortment of items flung at her. Countless faces flashed before her as the mob dragged her in, throwing her to the ground so hard her bones hurt. They pulled at her hair, and she could not keep down her cries as she crawled towards Donglin, kicking and biting at her assailants. Eyes bloodshot, Donglin struggled against the bonds tying his hands behind his back. Afraid he would escape, the executioner stepped even harder on his back. "Stop it," Donglin roared. "For fuck's sake, stop it. I killed him, so cast your weapons at me. I'm the one who killed and dismembered him. What does it have to do with her?" Gnashing his teeth, he strained his neck to look at the crowd. "Come on, come at me. Not only did I kill the Chens, I also cut them open one at a time and trampled on their bodies." Breaking out in bursts of laughter, he struggled against the restraints. His deranged appearance was exactly what everyone imagined a crazy murderer to be. "I killed one, then another. I broke Chen Ren's legs first. I didn't kill him with my sword. No, I used a wooden stick to smash that beast's face into a pulp. Why did I dismember them? 'Cause they'd need a complete corpse to make it to the underworld. I want them to be ghosts, condemned to wander for eternity, not even to be reincarnated as animals." Donglin burst into laughter as tears trickled down his face. "It was wonderful. Gotta be the most delightful thing I ever done in my life, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. So just kill me. Just kill me." The spectators were horrified. Even those who had been baying for justice had all been scared into silence. Like frightened mice, they retreated in a panic. Huadi stumbled to her feet and staggered to the front. "I've asked you so many times, but you never took me with you." Huadi spat and slapped Donglin across the face. She sobbed as she scolded him. "Look at what you've done. You're going to leave me forever. What am I to do with you gone? What about your baby girl?" "There's a bag of gold under your chest." Donglin caught her sleeve with his teeth and lowered his head to kiss her palm. "I know you're too much of a spendthrift to save up, so I hid it under the chest," he whispered. "Go take it to the madam and buy back your freedom. There should be some left over, so take that with you. It doesn't matter where you go. You can—" Huadi threw him a hard slap, tilting his head to the side, but it only made him all the more tender. "I've let you down." He turned his eyes. "I dragged it on for too long, and made you wait with me year after year. Silly woman, don't be so harsh with your words when you marry another man." He gave a wry laugh. "Forget it. Don't change. Let him put up with it. If he takes what was supposed to be mine, he ought to be scolded for the rest of his life." Huadi turned Donglin's head back to her and clung on to him without a care. "I ain't gonna be stupid this time round. You want to abandon me and leave me so you can live freely with that dead woman of yours? Not under my watch. I'm sticking with you, whether you like it or not. They'll take your head, then I'll smash my head and die here too. I'm going with you. I want to go with you." "I ain't taking anyone along." Donglin turned and propped his forehead against Huadi's. He let out a sudden burst of laughter. "I'm just happy my baby girl's just ahead of me. I searched all over the Middle Realm, thinking I'd never meet her again. How stupid of me. I forgot I can see her when I die." "No, I won't let you." Huadi hugged him. "You've forgotten about me again. You always forget about me. You heartless man. You want to leave me behind and live happily with your dead family?" "There are plenty of fish in the sea," Donglin said, "and they're all better than me." "Right, they're all better, but you are the one I met. You're the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. All these years you've made me wait. You owe me that much, Donglin. Make me an honest woman." "That won't do," Donglin said. "We'll talk about it in our next lifetime. You gotta walk the rest yourself. Having me around only held you back, but it'll be easier without me. And you deserve it after all you've been through. Go. Go home. Take the gold and buy your freedom. I'll be waiting for you on the other side." The hour had come. The attendant on duty from the Yamen came forth to haul Huadi away. The woman held on to Donglin, refusing to let go. Put on the spot, the attendant could only get some help to drag her away. She choked on her sobs and swears, but was powerless to resist as they hoisted her away. Feet dragging across the ground, she moved farther and farther from the platform. Donglin felt pressure on his back and saw a tablet with his name on it thrown to the ground. Behind him, the executioner raised his blade with a swoosh. Forehead burning from the heat of the sun, he gnashed his teeth and let out a bellow. The blade connected, and his head tumbled to the ground. Huadi let out a shrill scream and collapsed in a faint. The nether guards who had been waiting brandished their chains together to secure and leave with the convict's soul. Not so fast. Jinglin materialized in mid-air, spinning as he threw out his folding fan. "Leave the soul behind." Wind shot forward with the fan, applying pressure on the chains and holding them in place. One of the guards looked up and saw a figure with a stunningly attractive but unfamiliar visage, which told him that this entity must be using some kind of camouflage to disguise his true identity. "Who dares interfere with agents of the underworld on duty?" he bellowed. "Lurcher, you must have been lying in ambush waiting for us." Immediately, countless nether guards appeared en masse, a shadowy pack of papery shapes, simultaneously swinging their chains in formation. Above them stood Zuishan on one foot, palms pressed together, while Demonbane stuck firmly into the center of the town. The monk pushed his palms out, and golden light instantly filled the sky. "You've sure kept me busy looking for you." Zuishan removed his bamboo hat, revealing his shaven head and a cold smile. "Let's see where you can run to this time." While golden light surged like a massive wave, Jinglin took a step back and pulled Cangji out. The carp soared into the air and landed heavily on the verge of the wave, which he kicked back as though he were kicking a ball. "It has been a while, geezer." Cangji's evil aura was imposing. "Here to teach me a few more moves?" With a turn of his hand, Zuishan reduced the raging waves into clouds of smoke. "I knew you were no ordinary spirit." "Of course," Cangji shrugged. "There's only one of me in this world, so I'm so very precious. You are just in time. I'm hungry. Why don't you give me your remaining spiritual energy, and I'll commemorate you as my honorary teacher." "They say, a teacher for a day, a father for a lifetime," Jinglin whispered from behind. "Are you going to call him father? He isn't even as old as I am." "To be my papa," Cangji gripped Jinglin's shoulder and leaned on him as he enunciated, "one would need to have a certain charm, which he doesn't." "Why? Do you want to try out?" "It'd be my first time being a father," Jinglin said. "Try calling me once. I'll see if it sounds right." "If it sounds nice," Cangji leaned over and said in Jinglin's ears, "Will you let me eat?" Jinglin followed Cangji's gaze down to his own loose collar, where his collarbone was partially exposed. With a lift of his eyebrows, he quipped, "You can try. Cartilage is easy to chew." As soon as he said that, a gust of wind howled behind Cangji. Flashing a grin, the carp bent over as Demonbane swept towards him. Gripping his fan, Jinglin opened it and took several steps back. "I'm frail and weak." The top of his face hidden behind the fan, he cocked his chin. "I'm counting on you, my dear son. You'll have to pay me back double for using me." After stopping Demonbane with an arm, Cangji grabbed and pulled on the staff. Zuishan felt as though the weapon had been sucked into a thick wall. Although his expression betrayed nothing, he was alarmed that the carp managed to move it. The fish was truly remarkable. Not only had he devoured his spiritual energy, he had fully incorporated it in just a few short days. Even Demonbane could not tell from his aura whether he was a foe or friend. "Huai-an," Zuishan shouted. "What are you waiting for? Let's join forces to take them down." White sleeves fluttering like wings, Huai-an descended with the white cloth over his eyes that obscured his appearance. Hands behind his back, the boundary keeper rebuked. "He hasn't even run yet, and you're already in a hurry to strike. Let me question him before you make a move. Question my ass, Zuishan stomped angrily. Spirits are cunning and will make a mockery out of your benevolence. Throwing him into Soulhold will expose all his schemes. Sounds like you're indiscriminately imprisoning beings without due process, Tang Ji said. Soulhold must have plenty of wronged souls. Soulhold has been strict with its investigations ever since establishment. Never has there been a miscarriage of justice. Zuishan jolted his staff. You're originally a fish, but you're hungry for spiritual energy. It's not an injustice to arrest you. You should know that ever since the Supreme Father established the Court of Immortality, there have been no dragons or phoenixes. Creatures that consume spiritual energy breed evil. Not only do you consume it, you have a wild and evil disposition. How can we not be on guard against you? I was born this way. Tang Ji lazily let go of Demonbane. Are you jealous? I'm afraid not. Huai-On faced Tang Ji as the white cloth slipped off. His eyes were penetrating, as if he could see through Tang Ji. I can see your spiritual expanse is newly formed. My guess is that it hasn't been long since you reached human form. As they said, you cannot be faulted for being ignorant. This monk is called Zuishan. Although he looks fierce and rough, he is a powerful and well-reputed member of the Court of Immortality. The time he used to overcome his divine tribulation and ascend was even shorter than Lord Linsong. In terms of talent, none of the deities today are his equal. It's a pity he's now old and ugly and puts all his mind to catching unruly spirits. My friend, stop messing around with us and go with him to Soulhold. We'll release you if he's wronged you. I'm fine with that, but unfortunately he doesn't agree. Tang Ji mischievously corrected himself. Guga, they're trying to kidnap me. One moment it's father, the next moment it's brother, Jinglin said. Exactly who am I to you? Tang Ji dodged, brushing past Demonbane. Family. Huai-On flew over. Just as he approached the carp, a fan blocked his path, cutting off his view. Jinglin snapped his fan shut and twirled it around his fingers. Feeling a chill on his neck, Huai-On instantly leaned back as the wind from the fan sliced off his sideburns. Frowning, Huai-On caught his own hair. You're able to use the wind as a blade. Who are you? Jinglin tapped the fan on his lips and replied coolly, I'm this fat carp's family. Huai-On used his sight on Jinglin, but saw nothing. It was empty underneath the surface. Even his spiritual energy was so obscure that he could not discern it. How strange. Could there really be a being that was not human, spirit, or deity in this world? There's something strange about these two. Treading on air, Zuishan swung a blow at Tang Ji with his staff. There's more to them than meets the eye. I would have spared you, Huai-On followed up with a strike, but now you've piqued my interest. The market below broke out in a clamor. The sky was clear for miles around, but for some reason, there was a gale so violent it sent the townspeople staggering. Unstable on their feet, the commoners stooped over and covered their faces with their sleeves as they searched for shelter. On the other hand, the spirits, keenly aware of the powers above them, dived to hide in crevices, too scared to watch. Meanwhile, the nether guards staggered as they attempted to leave with Donglin's soul in tow. Huai-On noticed that Jinglin repeatedly covered his mouth to cough. The mysterious entity was lacking in attack power but skilled in dodging, which meant his spiritual expanse had dried up and his spiritual energy was inadequate. With a sudden move, Huai-On made to seize him, white sleeves swishing, but Jinglin sidestepped him, opting for evasion rather than meet him head-on. Seeing as the nether guards were about to leave, Jinglin drew a talisman in the air with his fan. Azure light surged, and the land under their feet sank. Caught unawares, the nether guards stumbled. Huai-On shielded his eyes from the glaring light with his sleeves. Meanwhile, Jinglin jerked Tang Ji back by his belt, and Demonbane struck the empty air. The monk turned, only to be assaulted face first by the azure light. Unable to see much around him, he retreated with a wince. When he looked up again, the two figures had disappeared. Instead of flying into a rage, Shan folded his arms and asked with a change of countenance, "What do you make of them?" The one with an empty spiritual expanse beneath a pretty face, most likely, he's severely injured and has yet to make a full recovery, so he's unable to gather spiritual energy by normal means. Gradually revealing his eyes, Huai-an continued methodically. This kind of injury isn't something an ordinary person can inflict. He must have received a critical blow to destroy his soul and almost died from it. He received a hit from your staff that night, so he should be aware of your prowess. Yet when he heard your name again today, there was no sign of panic on his face. He's either too shrewd or truly undaunted. The number of spirits in the middle realm who are not afraid of you is few and far between, but there are plenty in the court of immortality who don't fear you. It's hard to tell with that fish, but it's probable that this mysterious being came from the court. He's a formidable fighter, which is rather suspicious. Shan stroked his chin. I've had this feeling that I know him. In the past century, no deity has been banished to the mortal realm, nor have any spirits escaped from Soulhold. If you suspect that you know him, Huai-an turned his head, you should have an idea or two. You're right. I do indeed. Lord Linsong was annihilated 5 centuries ago before the Buddha, under the watchful eyes of the 4 lords of the court. It wouldn't have escaped their notice if he'd survived. But if it's not him, then there's only one other left, and that's Lord Sha-ge, Huai-an finished, shaking his head. Doesn't look like it. You know the temperament of my liege. Even if he'd descended to undergo tribulations with no memories of the past, his personality shouldn't have undergone such a drastic change. If he's indeed forgotten the past, it's possible that he subconsciously imitates Lord Linsong, Shan said. I know Lord Sha-ge has been asleep for a century because he can't get over Lord Linsong's death. I just hope that being wasn't him. After a momentary silence, Huai-an said, They were brothers, so how could my liege not feel grief when Lord Linsong committed such a sin? Out of the children whom the late Supreme Father adopted, only Lord Chengtian remains in good condition. It also remains to be seen if my liege will ever wake up from his slumber. No matter what, I must get to the bottom of this. Shan kicked his staff and hoisted it over his shoulders. Who exactly is under that disguise? Jinglin was so tired that he dozed off, slumped over Tangji's back. Tangji jolted him. The soul's still here. After you've finished questioning him, we should send him off to be reincarnated. Donglin? Jinglin asked, resting his head on Tangji's shoulder. No answer came from the sleeve. Only Stony peeked its head out. After walking for a while without hearing anything, Tangji jolted Jinglin again. Continue. The groggy Jinglin clung to Tangji's neck, forehead pressed against it as he muttered something. Sensing something amiss, Tangji felt his way along Jinglin's wrist into his sleeve, but there was only Stony. We lost him? Probably he left, Jinglin answered with his eyes closed. He's now a lost soul. Where can he go? Dunno. Maybe he went home. Tangji stopped in his tracks. Humans and ghosts are fundamentally different. Even Huadi won't be able to see him, let alone that little girl. He's the one who wanted to die, to be set free, so he should cross into the underworld and drink Meng Po's tea. Then he'd forget his past life and seek a new life. If he runs away like this, he'll be alone forever. He'll go if he wants to. Jinglin's voice grew heavier, now that he's free. What about the questions you had for him? Tangji looked over his shoulder and saw Jinglin asleep. Jinglin slept for a long time, waking up only in early spring when a chill still lingered in the air. He became so sluggish and easily tired that he would not even sit if he could lie down. With some gold, Tangji arranged a nice residence for them. Not only did it come with a roofed walkway and a courtyard, there were also servants to wait on them. Although Jinglin had never mentioned it, Tangji felt that the incident with Donglin had left a scar in Jinglin's heart. Something seemed different about him. He also used to sit idly in Cicada Haven all day long, but now, when he sat listening to the rain, his expression was often wan and drowsy. "Where have you been?" Jinglin sat on the ledge in the walkway, a scroll in hand, as he watched Tang Ji close his umbrella and change his shoes. Tang Ji took his overcoat off and dismissed the servants with a wave. Taking Jinglin's tea, he drank some, warming himself up, then asked someone to send over some heated liquor. "Money makes the mare go." Tang Ji replaced the lid on the teacup. "Now that I have money, I naturally want to indulge myself." "Tell me about it. I'm bored." Jinglin put the scroll aside and wrapped himself in his cloak, looking as fatigued and sleepy as ever. The smooth chin hidden in the fur, coupled with the finely sculpted contours of his cheeks, made Jinglin's half-closed eyes even more captivating. Tang Ji squatted down and pinched Jinglin's chin. "There's no trace of the bell at all. You should fatten yourself up, and I'll find a good day and gobble you down." "Hurry up and do it." Jinglin yawned. Tang Ji's fingertips were still wet, so Jinglin's skin felt even smoother to the touch than usual. Tang Ji felt as if he had fallen into Jinglin's trap. Sometimes he found himself at a loss when it came to this mysterious entity, but the latter always appeared as usual, as if he had not done or thought about it. Jinglin was a tougher nut to crack than anyone else. "There's plenty to enjoy out there, whatever you can think of," Tang Ji said. "Isn't there anything you liked to do when you were a human?" "No." Jinglin nudged Tang Ji's fingers away with his fan. "How boring." "Indeed. That's why I kept a fish." "I don't quite remember." Sitting down beside him, Tang Ji draped his hands over the railing and watched the rain. "But I think you were the first thing I saw when I opened my eyes." "Time touches not the mountains." Jinglin propped his fan against his temple and racked his brain. "I can't remember how long it was either." Tang Ji poured some liquor for Jinglin, who scrutinized it for a moment, prompting the carp to quip, "Are you so old that you've even forgotten what this is?" Jinglin took the drink. "I often feel that someone should invent a dish." "What's that?" "Fish tongue." Jinglin took a sip. "There's indeed no dish with fish tongue, but we can try human tongue." Tang Ji looked at him. "And your tongue isn't that likable either." "Remember to pluck it out when you eat me." Jinglin poured himself another cup. "I'd have to taste it first." Tang Ji scrutinized Jinglin. "Donglin's been reincarnated." Jinglin's expression remained unchanged. "I followed his soul around for a few days and saw him drifting about," Tang Ji continued. "After Hua Di bought her way to freedom, he surrendered himself to the Nether Guards. He wouldn't answer my questions. Weirdly enough, he didn't even take a look at Chen Cao Yu. The girl has her father taking care of her. Donglin had no more worldly ties, so he surrendered himself." Jinglin tilted his cup and, over the pitter-patter of the rain, uttered flatly, "Death is a kind of relief." "He's gone, so why are you feeling blue?" Jinglin swallowed the drink, not responding. It was a while later that he looked up blankly at Tang Ji, making the carp feel as if he were being clawed at by a cat. Jinglin's eyes reddened, his usual frosty face on the verge of tears. "You don't understand." The cup rolled in Jinglin's fingers, and he pushed it away in a fit of pique. He threw the fan at Tang Ji and murmured, "You don't understand." Tang Ji sat up straight and picked up the fan, then gently hooked Jinglin's fingers into his own and drew closer. He teased gently with smiling eyes. "That's right. I don't understand. Why don't you explain it to me, Jinglin, dear? Tell me." Jinglin let the distance between them close until they were sitting inches away from each other. Beyond the walkway, raindrops were pelting the branches of the trees, but Jinglin felt hot all over, cheeks flushed from the alcohol. "She's about the same age as my little sister," he blurted, holding back the hiccups. "Your sister?" Tang Ji wrapped an arm around Jinglin's lower back, discreetly luring him into an embrace. His voice was still patient and gentle. So you have a sister, huh? I've got brothers, too. Eyes wide with expectation, Jinglin counted on his fingers. Yun Sheng, Li Rong, Lan Hai. Tang Ji did not know any of them. Leaning in, Jinglin looked into Tang Ji's eyes with his own teary orbs, looking not at all like himself. I've got so many. Are you on good terms? Tang Ji whispered. With some, yes. With others, no, Jinglin answered honestly. Who are you on good terms with? Li Rong? Li Rong, yes, Jinglin nodded. How about Tang Ji? The carp teased. After some hesitation, Jinglin shook his head hard. Nope, he's always biting me. Tang Ji laughed. Then what should we do? I'm sure he'll do it again. Then, Jinglin answered in all seriousness, don't bite me so hard. Tang Ji held Jinglin's hand and leaned back against the railing, eyes still on him. Don't you want to kill or abandon him? When Jinglin shook his head, Tang Ji pinched his cheek while their fingers were still laced. The carp's gaze was complicated, and his words teasing. But you look so tantalizing, so how can you expect me to stop? That's all for now. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.